we work for a Needlepoint lifestyle brand. Like, that's really cool. People look at us like we have 27 heads, but like, I don't have imposter syndrome anymore. Hi, hello, how are you? Welcome back to the Penny Linn Podcast. I am Krista. I am the owner, founder, HBIC of Penny Linn, and this is the Penny Linn Podcast. So it has been a whirlwind experience since we last talked. Last Friday, when our previous episode went out, we turned on our warehouse. And so for those who might not know the full backstory, we have predominantly been shipping everything in our e-commerce fulfillment area, which is the back part of our Rowayton flagship store. And like in December/January, we were like running out of room and we needed more people. And it was basically the decision of like, do we find a new place, hire more people, and become like an established warehouse fulfillment center, or do we like try and outsource this? And we like did a big like cost analysis and stress test on me, and we decided to try a warehouse. The story of the warehouse actually like goes pretty far back to early 2021. I originally tried to use a warehouse because that was what my sister-in-law was doing for her company. And I was like, oh my God, your life is so much easier. You don't have to pack orders. And so we tried it. It didn't work out. And so I had kind of written off warehouses for forever until Dylan was like, I think we could do it. And I was basically like, if you can find the right people to do it, like, let's try it. So we turned that on Friday. Each week, I feel like on the podcast has been a lot of back and forth, but I think last week's episode was a lot of the stress of trying to figure out where things are and inventory and making sure things were updated. By the time they went live on Friday, they actually updated their inventory on the back end of our site on Thursday night. So we were able to kind of see everything that was going on. And then on Friday, we like officially like hit the switch and flipped it over, but it didn't update right away. It was really weird. There was 4 of us on a conference call trying to flip over the site. We had obviously never done this before. So we like flipped it over and like nothing changed. And I was like, what is going on? And so then we tried to think a little bit more and we tried to do a couple things. So I made some mistakes. And then we figured out that Shopify was having an issue, or actually we figured out postmortem that it was having an issue. But basically the issue was like Ralph's Coffee Cup said it had 500 in stock, but on the site it said notify me. And we spent about 2 hours trying to figure out why it was not showing up. And we had like paused all of our back in stock notifications and we weren't sure if it was that or if it was something else. And so we were trying to refresh. And then at one moment I was like, what if we just like delete the inventory and put it back in? And like have like a little manual fix, like what would happen? And what's so interesting, and I kind of said this on the call, is that like I'm the one to make that call. Like there's no one I can get in trouble with. So it was weird because it was the first time I had really realized that, because I like asked them, I was like, why don't we just do this? And they're all like, I don't know. Like, we're not supposed to touch the inventory because of the warehouse. Like, I don't know. And then I was like, wait a second, like I'm the person to make that call. And it was just like kind of a weird experience to be like, I actually can't get in trouble with myself. Like the warehouse might be upset by it, but like at the end of the day, like I'm the client. And if I, mess something up, it's on me. So it was just weird to be like, oh, wait, like I can make the call. And so I just did it. And the moment I deleted the inventory and put it back in, it updated on the site. And I was like, oh. So then we went through and it was kind of like a 2-hour process. And there's probably 7 of us on there. And I was dishing out. I was like, okay, Bridget, you take this canvas. Amanda, take this canvas. Emily, take this canvas. And we all went through and we were like just updating manually every single SKU. And so we have, 5,000 SKUs. We have no idea if it updated correctly, because some things I would say like 30% of the stuff on the site was showing up, but the other, 70% wasn't. So we just had to update everything manually. And it obviously caused a lot of issues because people saw one thing back in stock, but not another thing. Like obviously like Roller Rabbit restocked, but it wasn't like our official restock. We have like 500 canvases coming in, but the ones that did restock was like our initial before launch try to bulk up inventory, and it didn't make it in. So it's just been sitting basically under Olivia's desk for the past month. So it was just crazy. And Friday was like really scary. And I was like, I felt like actually sick for a pretty long time of that day, because it was just so nerve-wracking, because your whole site could either go down or be out of stock. And, we had kind of promoted and pitched and told people that we were going to restocking stuff, and it like wasn't working. We were trying to figure out why. So we finally got it to update, and Friday's sales were just insane. I think like what people had predicted we would do the entire weekend. We did on Friday. And, we have to kind of do projections for the warehouse, how many sales, like how many orders we think they'll have to pack each, day so they can staff appropriately. And we way underestimated. And what I think is really interesting is that like right now there's obviously this like huge needlepoint boom. And I don't know if I mentioned it previously on the podcast before, but it was kind of like terrifying to like see the boom happening and not have anything available for that boom to continue. So like for all of January, we did not have stock. We didn't really have anything available because all of our stuff was in this holding pattern at the warehouse waiting to be transferred over, waiting to be keyed in or inventoried, all that stuff. So I was kind of sitting back in January being like, oh my gosh, like what if we miss this trend? What if we miss this boom? What if people, Penny Linn isn't the go-to place? And, when we turned on the warehouse, it was kind of like, oh, it's actually maybe for the best because we started buying in November and December before all of these inventory issues were going on. So like we have stretcher bars and we have tacks and we have white thread, a lot of things that people are having trouble right now getting. We have that all because one, we ordered 4 months ago, but then two, we've been holding it since January or December, January. So it was really interesting to kind of see that turn on and like kind of feel like one of the main places that has good inventory and good stock right now. I feel like the rest of what's out there is maybe kind of picked over. I know a lot of people are struggling with getting inventory in. So it was just really nice to be someone who did have stuff in stock. And like some of like the designers we had in stock, like What's a Stitch or Morgan Julia, like they didn't have their own things, but we did because we had been holding on to it for a few months. So it was really cool. That weekend, we just like the full weekend in general, it was kind of like restocking throughout the weekends, inventory like updates, I think like throughout the day, but then we get like the full report at night at 7 p.m. every day. And so like things would just kind of restock and you would kind of see what would come in as the orders were coming through. So it was really interesting. And we ended up just over those 3 days having the biggest sales weekend that Penny Linn's ever had. Bigger than Advent, bigger than any Black Friday sale, any sale we've ever had. And it was really crazy. And what's so interesting, just like the way my brain works, is like I don't really like sit in the excitement or joy. I'm like, okay, that's done. What's next? Okay, that's done. What's next? And sometimes that can be hard for people on my team because, Dylan was like, we just like had this huge, amazing thing. And you're asking me about like why we're not shipping to Canada anymore. I'm like, yeah, like it was great. We did it. High fives. But like, people in Canada can't order our stuff anymore when like previously they could. Like, how can we fix it? So I'm always kind of on to the next thing. And I was talking to my therapist about that this week, but it's just the way I work and I don't have to sit in the enjoyment of it. Like I appreciate it for what it is. And then I'm like, okay, on to the next thing. And I think that's probably what makes me a good entrepreneur and maybe sometimes makes me a difficult manager. But that is just like the way I live of like, great job. We did it. Now like, let's continue fixing all the other stuff over here. So international shipping, by the way, is coming back. We hope to get it up and running by the end of the month. If we don't get it up and running by the end of the month, this will be cut out, so you'll never even see this. But the hope is to get that up and running. We just had to kind of like figure out, the first few hurdles first. We had to make sure the inventory worked, that the numbers are correct, that they're able to fulfill orders. And so obviously there's like a little bit of a lag time. The order queue is insane. It's like on Monday it was like over 4,000. It's around 2,000. So like they definitely are getting out orders, obviously not as quickly as they normally will. So just bear with us, but also, keep in mind that like we're constantly restocking. We are going to be launching a lot of stuff. Orders will be going out as fast as they are able to be packed, but like obviously you want them to be correct. And it's so interesting, like kind of the juxtaposition of people wanting Needlepoint to be a small cottage industry, handmade, small businesses, not, mass market. But then on the flip side, people want Amazon shipment. I want it the next day. Where is it? So it's definitely the push and pull of that. It's like you definitely can't be everything to everyone. And we're just trying to be what we want to be to ourselves. But we had people reaching out like Tuesday being like, why hasn't my order shipped from Friday? And I was like, because we got 4,000 orders in. So it's definitely interesting, but definitely just take time with us. And I promise you, it'll be better than if we were packing them ourselves and it'll be more accurate, which I'm very excited about. So one of the huge kind of weights off my shoulder is that we don't have to worry about the order queue. And so the back part of our office has kind of gotten like a facelift. I ordered desks, so that those should be coming in tomorrow, and then they'll be built over the weekend. And we like got rid of our packing island that was in the back that was originally in our Westport showroom. That is now in New York. We moved our 2 like big butcher block tables down to the basement, and then moved all of our threads down to the basement, the threads that stayed at the store. We moved over all of our accessories into the store and into the basement. So now we have like all this room upstairs that is like kind of empty. So it looks like we're like going out of business, or like it just feels very empty and we're all just kind of like, what is going on? But it's going to be good. Obviously, it's just like a big transition phase. All is well on that front. What else happened this week? It's so fun just to be where I am currently, because I like think of something and I don't know if I like put it out into the universe or what, but like a good example is like I would love to like collaborate with Asha. It's this jewelry brand. I'm actually wearing their earrings. They have a store, the most beautiful store in Nantucket. They also have another store in Palm Beach and in Greenwich, and it's just jewelry and clothing, and I'm obsessed with them. And they like came in on Monday and we like pitched them an idea, and it was just really cool. And I just love like the serendipitousness of it all. Obviously, we are definitely like in the realm of like we've signed on for too much and that we can't actually do it all. And I'm still very much working that through personally of I had really big expectations and realizing that like just not feasible for anybody. So I'm making concessions, and we are fixing things and just like taking one step at a time, which has been helpful, but just different than what I planned. So I am trying to be malleable, trying to be so chill. Another fun thing I did this week, actually last night, I was a guest on the Stitching in Color Zoom call. So if you are a person of color in the industry, or, designer, stitcher, or anything like that, I definitely highly recommend the Stitching in Color group. They are some of the most fun, amazing people that I've had the pleasure of meeting. A lot of my friends are in the group, but I got to meet the organizers last night and officially face to face via Zoom. And I just had the best time. And we were laughing. I cried, talked about a lot of really wonderful stuff. I definitely go on like a lot of different Zoom podcasts, or not podcasts, but meetups, or, just different things. And, people ask me questions, but their questions were so thoughtful and deep that they were like, what would you go back and tell your 12-year-old self? And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think of that. And it's like we talked about like the state of the world. We talked about the state of the industry. We talked about just everything. And it was just really fun to have a new group of people that I was able to connect with. And anybody who's listening to this who was on that call, I just, again, want to say thank you. It truly like really made not only my day, my week, possibly my month. I had so much fun. And anytime you guys want me to come back, just like send me over the Zoom link. I'm going to hop on. I'll be like a little fly on the corner, but it was just literally like the most fun call I've ever been on. So I want to thank you for that. What else is going on this week? We are getting like all of our Tootsie stuff together. Tootsie launches officially Friday the 20th. It'll be our first like official really big major launch. Obviously, we've launched with like Roller Rabbit and Mackenzie Childs, but this is like the first big licensing partner that we've done like a full collection for. And it'll just be interesting to kind of see how it goes. We have been preparing and prepping and buying for all of our other lines, but it's very possible that like this just like doesn't do well, but it's more likely that it's actually going to do really well. We're actually launching Caitlin Lane. I actually need to send an email out to her. Obviously had the best time with her on the podcast last week, but when we bought her stuff, Penny Linn and the industry were at a much different place. And I definitely didn't buy for the demand that I've been seeing. And I have to basically reach out to her and apologize, because that's on me. I have officially also kicked over inventory to Bridget and Dylan. I no longer want to be part of it. I want to be part of it. Like I'll basically give like the final sign off, but I feel like I'm too in it to do it justice. I don't know why, but I am so afraid of buying big and investing in myself that I'm now giving it over to people that I really trust in that space, and they're going to basically hit me with numbers. So I am hoping to be able to do that. We also talked this morning about possibly going down to market and buying some canvases as buyers. So we'll kind of see about that. I usually don't go to market because it's right around my son's birthday, at least like for buying. We've been in the past, but it's just not something that we need. I think we actually, I don't know if we'll be at this market because we're with Stitch Tent now for wholesales. Maybe we will be at market. I obviously won't physically be there, but we were kind of debating on like if we should go down. But also like right now it's 10 degrees outside, and being in Florida kind of sounds like a nice thing. And it was actually my youngest son's birthday. It's his first birthday is the middle of that week. And we're celebrating his birthday the weekend before with my parents. So it's possible that we may be able to go down. I don't think I got like an official word on if we should or not, but I'll let you guys know. So in terms of the next part of this podcast, we'll talk about quickly what's on my desk because we do have a conversation with Amanda that we filmed last week. Amanda is one of the original employees at Penny Linn, the original employee at Penny Linn. So it'd be a really fun conversation to kind of like see the behind the scenes of our working relationship and friendship. But I know that to not go too far over, I wanted to show you guys kind of just like quickly a quick update and then what's on my desk. So the very first thing on my desk is I finished my Mary Poppins. I talked about this in the Stitching in Color last night, but I don't frog anything. If the threads are messed up or if the dialogues don't match, like it's part of the story because I just like don't have time to be ripping out stuff. So you can kind of see like the color variations right here. For some reason, I think when I pulled this thread from the thread bucket, it must be there because it was maybe like sun bleached. And every time I start a new thread, you can kind of see like a darkness, but it is what it is. It's part of the story. Yeah, even from far away, you can see it. Well, what are you going to do? But the back is definitely not my best. Sometimes I like put pressure on myself to have a beautiful back and literally no one will ever see it. And so I think because I put this pressure on myself and I do really try to make it neat, I like to show it off because I'm like, I did a good job. But this one I didn't really because I was like really carrying over the black. But outside of that, it was not bad and it was fun to stitch. So I finished both of my Annie and my Mary Poppins one. And these should be, we actually just placed the order for the Playbill stuff. So that should be coming soon-ish. I also have this little potato gift, a mysterious person. If you guys follow us on TikTok, you can kind of have an update for Potato Gate. But for some reason, we are like turning into potato farmers. And a mysterious somebody left us Valentine's Day. So it says, Krista, I'm rooting for you. Just a little potato that believes you can do anything. I know it, you know it. Tiny potato has your back whenever you need to pick me up. So now it's like our little mascot. So it's very cute. And I thought that was sweet. I have food on the side of my desk. Oh, it's so beautiful. So obviously some of our Eloise is coming in. This is a canvas that I stitched. I think I want to stitch like 10 more bags. I love stitching bags, but I also never wear them. Riddle me that. I mean, maybe I'll wear this Palm Beach. We had our purse finisher finish this and they did such a good job. I asked them to kind of like make it Chanel-esque where if you're going to do a gold chain to kind of like thread the hot pink leather through. And it is just so beautiful. So it has the long strap, but it also has 2 short straps that are detachable. And it's just like they just do such a beautiful job. I'm gonna have to find a reason to wear it. We did just plan a trip to Palm Beach because I always get this itch like in January that I was like, I just want to go to Palm Beach. Obviously having 2 boys makes it much more difficult, but we invited my mom. So hopefully that will be good to help. Also, my mom was very happy about the response and being in the podcast last week that she was like, when I come back, she's coming back in April because my husband and I are going away for a week. And she was like, when I come back, I'm going to record the podcast without you. So we will like set that up so we can get like a Q&A for her, but she is officially going to like take over the podcast. And then I've been getting a bunch of samples in. So the factories overseas officially closed. I will say, I guess like the saddest part of this update is that our magnetic tins did not make the cutoff date. So we were like officially going to be sold out for like the next month, which stinks. But I did get in samples. These are a lot of needle minder samples. Let's see. We have samples for Eric Carl. We have samples for, is that Louise in here? No, it's just Eric Carl in New York. When I tell you we've been getting like proofs of some of our New York canvases, you guys are going to freak out. They are so, so good. Some of these minders, I'll show you a few. I'll show you one funny one that we're like calling a collector's edition. So these were just like samples. So like I wanted to have like a little like kitschy part of the area where it's like New York, like souvenirs, but like needlepoint Penny Linn related. So one of them is this keychain, and it's like one of those like spinning keychains, and it says Penny Linn, New York, New York, but it actually says New York, New Yo. So our play on words is that like it's like I Heart PL, but I Gardenia NY. Because we're actually trying, I guess like I Heart New York actually has a really strict license against it that we haven't received yet. So we're trying to do a Gardenia New York and then I Heart Penny Linn to kind of get it right then. Another cute keychain that I really like is this says like I Gardenia New York and then I Heart PL, and it has a little apple on it that says New York. So it's like a little keychain. Another cute keychain is like an NT-LPT New York coffee cup. We also have some acrylic keychains that we're coming out with, and this one just says New York on a hot dog. But if you look at the poppy seed buttons, it actually spells out like Penny Linn, which I thought was fun. And like, here's another one where it's like a New York City taxi cab that says Penny Linn on the side. So those are some of the fun ones. Let me show you my favorite needle minder. I also have some Air Carl ones here too, but let me show you. I'll show you my favorite needle minder and my favorite. So it's my favorite Air Carl needle minder. My little fat squishy. And my favorite New York needle minder. I mean, this is Bridget's favorite, so I might pull that out. I'll show you Bridget's favorite to kind of keep the rest a surprise. A little apple that says New York in it. So very sweet. There's a lot of really fun stuff in here. But also in addition to that, we also have all of our needle minders restocking. So there will be like a really big restock that's actually going down today. Amanda is currently on her way to Maryland to drop that all off because we need to get Tootsie in turned around quickly. That is everything that's on my desk. I did do an office clean out. So most of my samples and all of like the really good stuff are actually on the other side of this wall. So that is it for today. I will leave you with the conversation with Amanda that I had last week. I hope you enjoy, and I will see you guys next week. Bye. Hello and welcome, Amanda Caldwell. Well, I guess Amanda Cosgrove now.
I'm halfway through the name change, mailed my passport off, which seems very weird that that's the second step.
Yeah.
You would think that you would get a new license and then get a new passport, but
you need to have your passport to get your new license.
Mm-hmm. So we're in that phase right now, but I'm still Amanda Caldwell / Cosgrove.
You'll forever, no offense, John, or be Amanda Caldwell.
Everyone, you have the name that you had when we met.
Right.
You are Krista Robertson.
Right.
In my phone.
Yeah.
Love you, Andrew. Sorry.
But like Megan, people call her Megan Wood. I'm like, I don't know who it is.
Megan Sin forever.
Yeah, forever.
It is very weird. I don't think that I have uploaded or changed anyone's last names.
No.
Like, even Kayla Great, she's still Kayla Kane. It's just, it goes. It's like a part of our identity.
Once you're like in my phone or something, I'll literally never change it.
I still have Krista's password door code for her Lexington apartment because it's in there forever. Yeah. So that's just how it is.
Under Andrew's information, it says like MLB as company.
They've been married for 7 years.
5 together for 11.
MLB. Yeah. Just in case you forget.
Just in case.
You never know.
Yeah. There's not important. Amanda Caldwell, Cosgrove. People know her if you've interacted with Penny Linn over the past 5 years. Right hand of everything. But I thought it'd be fun to have you on the podcast today. So we're going through and we're kind of talking to all employees. It only made sense you were the first employee to kind of pop on. And we have like a very detailed past. So I guess give us quickly the like TLDR of your life.
Yeah.
Skipping over college, ending right before you get to Penny Linn.
Yeah. So I have always been a grinder. I have always had jobs. I've been working in retail since I was 16.
Where are you from?
I'm from Lexington, Kentucky originally. Grew up right outside of the University of Kentucky, which is where we ended up going to school. Parents are still there. Love Kentucky. It was a great place to grow up. I definitely was a lost soul in a tiny town, lusting for something bigger. Was very much obsessed with all of the fashion magazines and 17, Cosmopolitan, Teen Vogue. I wanted to be Lauren Conrad so bad, throw that with a Legally Blonde, and I thought that was going to be like the trajectory of my life. But just fashion and retail have always been a calling to me. I think it's because I love to shop. Coordinates well since Penny Linn is for stitchers by stitchers. We very much live that motto. But I worked throughout college. After college, had my first job with Lilly Pulitzer as a store manager, left that job, worked for Keeneland, which is the racetrack in the town that we grew up in. From there, got into kind of my career, I would say. From there, the lady who was the director of merchandising for Keeneland had been there for 40 plus years. She knew everybody in the industry. If you had to do anything with equestrian lifestyle apparel, this woman had probably met with you. And so she really took me under her reins and taught me all about buying and merchandising and vendor relationships. And from her, I was able to work with a brand called Country Club Prep and started opening up retail stores for them. They were very much a social-based company. And so we leaned into events, and influencer marketing was at its very tiny stages. then where I was able to tap on Krista when I had a summer pop up in the Hamptons, and was just really able to have that entrepreneurial spirit through Country Club Prep of really essentially, having an idea from the owners and being entrusted to make their dreams come true. And, I've kind of taken the skills that I've learned at, those jobs and took that into, I was with Dylan's Candy Bar for 5 years up until the pandemic. And I say that's the job I really grew up in. I had people who needed to work for me there at Dylan's. And so that was the, first time you're like really operating at, a high level capacity, and, you have 100+ people on your payroll, and, you're able to learn about how, you private label things from larger companies and white label them to be under the brands that we all know and love. And it was really cool to see different partnerships come to fruition through Dylan's eyes in candy, because I'd never really worked in food before. So that was a different lifestyle experience to learn as well. And then 2020 rolled around, and I feel like we've all lived 5 lifetimes since then. And that is where my Penny Linn story begins.
You also had another job before.
Yeah, technically. Yeah, that's true. That's happened. So 2020, June, got laid off from Dylan's Candy Bar because 90% of our business was bulk candy and nobody was sticking their hands in candy bins, peak 2020. So fall of that year, my uncle's owned a spice company called Urban Accents. And at that point, they were looking to sell the business, and I wasn't working. And so I started working with them, consulting, building out their employee handbook, doing standard operating procedures, which led me to helping them sell the company. And they were acquired by Stonewall Kitchen. And I was the product development manager there for a little over 2 years. I was with Urban Accents for like 8 months before the acquisition. And then thankfully in May of 2023, that's when we moved to Connecticut. And then July of that year, I don't know how I was doing 2 full-time jobs at the same time, but we made it happen. But then once we moved to Connecticut from Chicago, which is where I was for the first 2.5 years working with Krista, did both jobs. And then July, it was actually right before we went to Nantucket. It was horrible. It felt like life had ended, but really it was just beginning, because there's no way that I would have been able to keep up with both. And Penny Linn really did hit its biggest stride, around that time. So not religious, but one of those people that, everything happens for a reason, and the timing couldn't have been better.
Yeah. And so obviously we very much glazed over us. And so take us back to college and how you first got into needlepointing.
Yeah. So we went to the University of Kentucky. I had seen needlepoint, but not in our age group. I hadn't seen it in social settings or groups or anything like that. And I had just joined a sorority, and I was in the sorority house, and a girl was sitting in the living room stitching. And I was like, "What is that?" And she was like, "Oh, it's a needlepoint belt." And I was like, I want to make one of those. I was like, my dad would love that. She's like, well, I'll take it to the store tomorrow. And so we went to the Eye of the Needle in Lexington, Kentucky, which is still there. Hey, Mimi. And 2 weeks later, I started working there. I became obsessed. It was just the perfect activity to do in between classes. I was a freshman, so, I didn't have the best schedule. And so I found myself sitting in hallways a lot. And needlepoint is one of those portable projects that you can bring around with you, and you could stitch in between chapter meetings and your activities afterwards, or if you had 30 minutes to kill in between a class. It was great to travel if you were like on a bus trip somewhere for a sisterhood event. Like needlepoint could go anywhere with you. And I remember we'd have like our Eye of the Needle bags. They'd be like folded up flat, and you would slide it into your backpack, and you would just like pull it out, because we just used plastic bags. So it was like you pulled your thread out of your plastic bag, and there it was. But started working at the Eye of the Needle 2 weeks into college, and worked there all the way through my first semester of graduate school. I made a lot of friends at the Needlepoint store. It really helped me to get to know people in other Greek organizations or just other people in school. I met a lot of people's parents and siblings because they were coming in and getting them gifts. Actually, one of our new team members, Virginia, is a friend that I met at the Needlepoint store, and we were acquaintances in college, but then became really good friends when we were both in Chicago at the same time. And, it was the very, very starting itch of that like community building that is Needlepoint. Didn't see it that way then, but the Eye of the Needle was a great place to be. And the owner of that store is so creative herself. I just had no idea the possibilities that could be within the industry, because we didn't have the resources that we do now. The Eye of the Needle was the place to get your custom needlepoint belt and was just a great place to work.
Yeah. And you, what was your very first project?
It was a belt with every single horse race track in the country on it in all different colors, in every different type of font you could imagine.
Yeah.
And I remember stitching the background because that's where you get started. And I, did all my khaki. And I remember getting to the letters and I like panicked and was like, oh my God, what do I do? And I went to the store and sat on the couch and the owner looked at me and said, you just do the same thing you were doing, just switch colors. And I was like,
yeah,
okay.
It's because I also learned the eye of the needle, and we'll like kind of get into that, but Mimi taught me over the desk.
The counter, probably.
It was like, she was like, just do this 1,000 times over. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And then it just sent me on my way.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like people sometimes when they get to Needlepoint, they feel very overwhelmed by it all, especially like in today's day and age. They're just, maybe it's more pressure or like there's all these decorative stitches. But like we learned like half cross. So like it was continental one way and then half cross the other. And I didn't fix that until like 10 years in, and I had no idea.
Had no clue.
Right. Like we didn't know basket weave. We only ever stitched in DMC. Like it was very just basic. And so like when people get into it, yes, there are so many wonderful things and threads and styles and stitches, but like at its core, you can really do whatever. And that like definitely goes to show of how we got into it.
Yeah. And I think that we take that into our teachings in our classes that we have, that like needlepoint is as simple as you want it to be. Like you only need a canvas, a thread, and a needle to get started. Everything else is just fluff. But it's one of those things that you can get as little or as much out of it as you want to, like Greek life. And if you want to learn 100 stitches, you can. But if you want to just do a 10th stitch over and over again, if that brings you joy, do it. Yeah. It's your journey. It's a hobby.
I was actually looking back. I think it's my wedding ring bearer pillow. I actually stitched it the opposite diagonal.
That happens.
Because I just like didn't even know. Like it just wasn't.
As long as you were grooving.
Right.
And it was all the same
thing. So like it doesn't even like matter. I feel like obviously now there's like just like a lot of pressure out there, but it doesn't. Nothing matters.
Well, that's an alternating cross stitch.
No, literally. I'm just so advanced.
There's a stitch for that.
So we met at the University of Kentucky. We met during Rush.
Yeah, we met during Rush initially.
Yeah.
And then circled back a couple weeks afterwards during continuous recruitment.
Yeah.
I just remember like meeting outside of like, it wasn't the science building, it's the one next to it.
Yeah.
I feel like I never actually, it was like the music building or something next to the president's house.
Yes.
I don't even know if I've ever been in that building.
No, that's where we had one of our recruitments.
I just remember us like sitting out on the sign outside of there and we were like trying to recruit you.
Yeah, that's not working.
That part didn't work.
But then we must have stayed connected maybe through Dance Blue or just like Greek life in general. But how did we connect over summer? So I stayed in Kentucky for all 4 summers between school, and it was the summer going into sophomore year. I had moved to Center Court, and we were hanging out.
I think it was just between like frat rushes and being there with each other and just like exchanging numbers and just being like, hey, we're going to do this. Do you want to do that? And I think we just all became friends because me, you, Danielle, and Megan Megan wasn't there yet. No. But like we hit it off quickly.
I think Danielle was there that first summer.
Yeah, she might not.
I could probably go back in my Facebook photos and try and find out.
That's how I try to see your friend relationship.
No, literally. But it was something that like that summer we started hanging out. And I don't know if like, I mean, obviously we went to the bars. I was not of age.
No.
Did we go to the bars that first year, sophomore year? Maybe it was into junior year. Anyway, but I remember we were hanging out. Yes. And we went to whoever's townhouse it was.
Yes, DeLuca's.
Yes. And I met a boy there. And that was one of the guys in your friend group.
Yes.
And that's how we stayed close, is because I was now dating Brian and you were friends with all the Phi Top boys. And so like then we became, I think we were like maybe casual friends, but then we became like the legitimate friends over that summer.
I can't remember what it was like where we were getting with each other. It had to have been something like a Dance Blue, even just Greek life in general, just like crossing paths. Yeah. There was something every week for everybody was there, it seemed like.
But I just remember I didn't know anybody at that party and I wouldn't have.
I just remember me, you, and Lindsay like showing up.
Anyway, we were hanging out. I met a boy. I remember I was like, that guy's really cute. And you were like,
no way.
I was like, you're like literally good luck. Every girl is like obsessed with him and he like never. And I would like hang that one on my mantle that we did date. But that's how you and I became close and stayed close. And then like all of our friends would leave for the summer, and Amanda and I, we did connect like more through Dance Blue, and we were on the merch team together. And then we just started hanging out, and we would go to bars together. And because we were both there every summer, we became really close.
Yeah. And I feel like we'd go to the lake or
Right,
pool,
right.
like whoever was living at whatever complex.
Yeah.
Always getting to something. But there was like a crew of people, like there weren't that many people who would stay, because if you lived in one of your Greek houses or a dorm, you had to move out for the summer. So it was essentially like a crew of like 10 of us, I feel like, who stayed behind. Essentially, people who had like internships and stuff or worked.
That's definitely how we got close.
Yeah, I feel like we all just spent all of our time together.
Yeah. But what's so strange is I don't ever remember seeing you at Eye of the Needle. But you had to have been there.
Yeah,
when Megan and I would go.
I never paid for Needlepoint all through college, because I would like stitch a sample, and like that would be, credit, or like you could just
I would love to look back at like a receipt and see how much Needlepoint was back then, because I'm sure it was like so much cheaper.
Well, a belt
like $25
were $65 for like the SEC belt. I remember that was our most expensive belt, and it was $72.
That's insane.
And like keychains were $12, $12 to $15.
It's $12.
Yes, because she would charge anywhere from, when you're pricing out a hobby belt, it's anywhere from, well, she would start at $8. Like a basketball was $8 for that icon, which now it'd probably be $15.
Yeah.
If I had to guess.
Which is
like,
still cheap for her.
It is still cheap.
Yeah.
But like the interlocking UK logo, like that was $12. And then I think like a Maker's Mark bottle, I think that was one of the more expensive icons, and it was $18. So like a hobby belt was like $120. And I remember you'd pay like a $50 deposit, and people would be like,
yeah. And I remember you would like drop it off, and she's like, okay, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
To get it returned to you.
Yeah.
Like life was good.
It was good.
We had no idea how good we had it.
She stopped even offering them like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
The expectations are crazy.
Yeah.
Now.
No, it's insane.
But
so
Needlepoint was very affordable.
Yeah.
And to this day, they still kit all of their belts with DMC 5, or we had DMC 5 and 3, and like Silk and Ivory and Vineyard Silk. We had those, but those were fancy threads. Like I only ever bought those to do ornaments.
Yeah.
And
I don't think I mean, up until, really right before Penny Linn, like I hadn't stitched with anything other than DMC.
Yeah.
Like, that's all I needed.
Megan hadn't until we were in the Hamptons.
There's something about the Lexington girls who live and breathe off of DMC and don't explore anything else.
Yeah.
It's just like what we were taught.
Yeah, we were just
creatures
creatures of habit.
Anything else. Yeah. So it was funny. But then, so we obviously spent the next 4 years together at school, went our separate ways, but always stayed in the same realm.
Yeah.
And you moved a ton between Atlanta and Charlottesville.
Yeah, I went
the Hamptons for a summer.
Like Cincinnati. I was Lexington, Cincinnati, back to Lexington. Then I went to the Hamptons, Virginia, Charlottesville, Atlanta, Chicago, Connecticut.
Yes. And so when I reached out to you about Penny Linn stuff, had you been dating John at the time?
We just started.
Okay. So tell that story first about your husband.
Yeah.
So tell everyone about how you met John, what he was doing, and kind of like what he is doing now, because you guys are becoming this little needlepoint power couple.
Yeah, yes, but like
you have to
hidden.
You have to talk about like, because that, talking about John and the backstory of all of that, teaching him how to chart leads us into the AC designs as well. And then we'll go back and talk about us.
Yeah. So let's see. Pandemic, I had a lot of time on my hands. I actually won a volunteer award in 2020 in Chicago, because if you know me, you know I do not know how to sit still. Like I cannot relax. Like I have to be doing something all the time.
She was working on her wedding day. And we were like, leave us alone.
I was just checking in. But I stayed super active, and I've obviously always followed Krista and was keeping up with her journey. And when I was in New York, we'd try to see each other, and stayed with her a couple times, going to trade shows, because working for a startup, you work on zero budget. So I'm like, hey, I'm coming to a trade show. We can't afford a hotel. Can I stay the night with you? Memories. But I think you had announced that you were going to open Penny Linn, and I just remember being like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Like, I wonder how she's going to do this.
Yeah.
And like, I think you'd maybe like posted a couple pictures, and like, that's how we started chatting. And then it was the end of June. I'd sold my condo in Chicago, was officially done with Dylan's, and my gunkles had a really nice empty condo that they were like, just move into here. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to move into it, because I wasn't going to move back to Kentucky. I was like, I will find a job in Chicago. Like, I have plenty of experience. It will happen. Staying in Chicago. So I moved into there, and I was like, I was single, but I hadn't been on the dating apps in like 3 months. And I was like, okay, new neighborhood. If you are a single gal living in a city, you know that you don't really set your mile radius much further. For me, I was like, I'm not going to walk more than a mile to somebody. So like it's out of the picture. And also in a big city, if you cast your net too far, you start to run into people who don't live there and are just like visiting. So moved to Wrigley, got on Bumble. What up, Bumble? And matched with him. He's the first guy I matched with. And I was like maybe 2 days into messaging. And I was like, I'm not looking for a pen pal. So if you want to ask me out on a date, you can ask me on a date. So we went on, we matched on the Saturday. And then Wednesday we had our first date. And then we had another one on Friday and then Sunday. And I joke it was like the second week of September. And he just never went home after that. But during that time, we had, I think maybe in July or August, I started painting for you a little bit.
Yes. Okay. So our conversation started because you were like, so cool, like so excited, Penny Linn, like, let me know if you need anything. And I was just painting a ton. And I was like, can you help me paint? Because like I was trying to like gear up for this launch in September. And then I remember also when I got bags in, we had just been texting and I was like, I didn't know like what to price them at. And I was like, oh, you're like, because of your background in retail, I was like, oh, maybe I'd be a really good person to ask. And so I think like how we originally kicked off the conversation, I remember very specifically talking about pricing for the bag. And you were like, do this and this and this. And I was like, okay. And so then you helped paint and I like sent you, did I send you paints or did you have to?
I went and bought them. But like you told me what to get. And I remember Karen, your mom, had cut all the canvas for me. In hindsight, that was such a blessing. If you've ever cut a roll of canvas, like it's actually hard. I've tried a lot of different tools, but like you get it down. But thankfully her mom had like pre-cut all the David canvases for me and I got the paint. Krista, I remember we jumped on FaceTime and you like showed me how to like, at that time, we found better paint now, but at the time we were watering it down.
It was too thick.
It was too thick. So I remember us getting the like consistency down and I had a lot of time to like sit and think and we were doing these canvases and I was like I had always kept like I actually still have it. I have like a sticky note of canvases that I always wanted to add to my now there's a word for it, to my stash that I could never find. I find
you're ideas. Like, you're like, I have ideas, like what should I do? And I was like, it's pretty easy. You just paint it. You just create it. And I think, did I tell you about Max Stitch?
Yeah. So, well, I'd gotten Max Stitch originally because that's how I was pulling it up so I could like zoom in when I was painting the David charts. So then I downloaded Max Stitch and tried to figure out the software. I grew up having all my birthday parties at McDonald's from a small town in Kentucky. It's just like what we did. And so I knew, and one of the canvases on my list was a Happy Meal. I could not figure out how to make the designs 3-dimensional. And so this is where I tap in on to my now husband. He was working at a controller at an engineering firm. So he was in finance, doing the books for a big, engineering firm downtown. He would get home at night, I was a little stressed. And one night I was like, why don't you try this? I was like, do you think you can make it 3D? He has that kind of, engineer brain. And next thing you know, he like did it perfectly. And I was like, oh, it's so annoying. And he just did this. I like had been trying for days at that point to the point where I was like, okay, let me hand this off now and see if somebody else can do it. And then he kind of became obsessed.
It was like a creative outlet for him.
It was, yeah. 'Cause, I mean, he would spend our whole weekends just like designing stuff. It was kind of like I would do all the basic stuff and anything that had like technical skills that were needed, John would kind of do. And then probably a year after that is when you had the baby collection come out. And so we started offering customizations. And so he started doing the customization part. And then finally he quit his job and, took on custom painting and that's evolved. And now he does finishing. And it's so interesting because I feel like it's the same journey that, we've had with Penny Linn. It's just like you have to take opportunities when your customers tell you where you need to go.
Right.
And that's just the way the needlepoint industry is very vocal. And like you all do tell us what we need to do, which is so helpful. It's just like actually taking those actions and making something happen.
Right.
And I think just being able to have, the support system of people who are like excited about needlepoint and like all of us are so lucky. We have great parents who are really supportive of what we're doing, which like, if you don't have your support system supporting you, then it's not as easy to make those big steps of, going into, like we work for a needlepoint lifestyle brand. Like that's really cool. People look at us like we have 27 heads, but like I don't have imposter syndrome anymore. I haven't in years. I know John still faces it because, was on track to be a CFO, and like, he's doing great, but
Right.
it is a different type of conversation
Totally.
because we grow up, it's, you go to school, you get, the job that you're at for the next 20 years and you retire there, and like, or you retire once you have kids. And that's just not the trajectory that any of us have been living. And I think while that's scary at times, I think that it's so much more fulfilling being able to know that we are doing something positive with our time, and we are helping people create heirlooms to last a lifetime. And just knowing that we are putting good into the world, and that we're not trying to stick it to the man, or like we're not like hungry for, like, we're hungry to bring you guys beautiful products that you want to cherish forever, but like there's not that like, oh, we gotta keep up with Bezos, or like, we gotta keep up with X, Y, and Z. Like it's nice to be able to have these creative outlets, be able to be decision makers, and be able to take all of those hard skills we've learned over the years and put them into this business, which is really cool. And being able, all the skills that we've learned, even John with finishing, and the business side of it, there's so many logistics and business things that go on behind the scenes of Needlepoint. Like we had no idea until we got deep into it. Like even just keeping up with our product detail sheet, that's just like the master list of the dimensions of everything. Like that piece, me and Bridget joked the other day, we're like, if we lost that, like,
it'd be a real issue.
We made a copy of it the other day. We like had a panic moment. We're like, oh my God, what if Google Drive crashes and we have nothing?
Then we'd all die.
Then we have nothing.
Yeah. So you were in Chicago, and I think it was like kind of like side by side where I was like, we're going to start the collective, and you're also going to be an employee.
Yeah.
And you were just helping, I think, start off with wholesale, right? You were managing like email,
customer service.
Yeah. And like at the time it was just me, but then it was the both of us. And I still remember to this day shipping out wholesale canvases to you. And
the one box that got lost.
Yeah. I like still have actual PTSD. We sent out probably 500 canvases, and they're just gone. They never got delivered. And I didn't insure it, and I only insured it for like $500. Like it wasn't. It was we we just lost so much.
It was a lot. It was like I think it was like $1,200 to $1,500 in costs.
Yeah.
Of canvases.
Yeah.
And that's when we learned that the postal workers scan things before they deliver them.
Yeah.
That don't always make it off their little carrier cart.
Yeah. So that was very much PTSD to this day. But so you were working in Chicago, you were kind of doing wholesale. We did markets together, but then it was like in May of 2022, had it been after I gave birth.
So I was like part-time fall of 2020, started full-time in March. So almost happy 5 years. And then March, and then collective, we launched it in like June. I think it was like June.
I want to say it was even earlier.
June or July.
But it wasn't.
We went Jenna and then us, which us is AC Designs. And Jenna's our really dear friend at Gray Millennial. Love you, Jenna. So it was those two. And then the following year, that fall is when you started developing the wicker bags.
Right.
And then quickly after was the acrylic. And so,
and we did Blissett, which was our warehouse, and you were still doing wholesale, and it just like wasn't working out. And so I needed to get like a space.
Yeah.
And I think it was around this time that I was like, I think I'm going to make Penny Linn into something.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think like we're going to take it to the next level. And I was like, but I need somebody here to help me.
Yeah.
And I basically was like, I want that someone to be you, but she lived in Chicago at the time. And I was like, if you want to move out, and like, obviously it was a big thing because you guys love Chicago. You were like, I'll never move to Connecticut.
Yeah.
Like, why would I ever want to live there? And so I gave her the opportunity. I'm glad you took me up on it.
Yeah.
But that was like that was 2023.
Yeah, it was 2023 because we had just, we had gone to market, or our last market. That was in Charlotte, where Spring Market was?
Atlanta.
It was in Atlanta.
Yeah. And we sold wicker there. And we had the second room.
So we had that, and
we basically just like talked.
At the end of it, it was kind of like, because we had inventory in 3 places at that point.
Yeah.
We had everything was coming to Krista at that point, Westport. We had all the wholesale and anything needed to be personalized at our house in Chicago. Right. And then we had Blissett because we had wicker coming, or we had wicker there, and then we knew acrylic was coming because acrylic came that June. And so it was just
too much.
It was a lot. And we did need to streamline something. Something needed to change. And thankfully, Krista, when she gets an idea, she doesn't let up on it. And so when she decided we should get a space, she found one in like not even 2
I remember
weeks.
I went to market and then I got keys like the day we came back.
It was, yeah, I guess. Okay. So I guess you had looked a little before. So we must have had the conversation before a little bit, but I don't know.
Yeah,
But
I set up the showroom for like 3 months before you moved out.
Yeah,
Remember you saw it for the first time when it was still like we didn't have threads on the wall.
No, we didn't have threads on the wall.
My mom and I had done most of it.
Yeah.
Blissett hadn't given us our inventory back.
No, because me and John went and got it.
Right.
Which we actually still use that TaskRabbit.
Yeah.
But so we moved out. The timing worked out great. Krista found the space. We loved our apartment in Chicago. It was so wonderful. Our landlords are great and they weren't going to raise the rent again. And we're like, they're probably going to reach out to us soon because this was the beginning of April. Our lease renewed in May. And we're like, well, if there's any time, because again, all about timing, all about things falling into your lap when they're supposed to. And so the next day, we got a text from like our landlord, Kim, being like, hey, like just checking in to like see how things are going. Just wanted to see if you were like going to renew. I remember looking at John and be like, this is our chance. Are we signing? Are we not? And I remember I like typed it out saying like, thank you so much. We're going to move to Connecticut. And I sat there and stared at it and I was like, yo, and just like hit send. I'm like, because it's like, you got to do things. I knew we were building something special here.
John's parents are from Connecticut, even though it's very anti-Connecticut.
He's from Marlborough, Connecticut, which is closer to Hartford. But again, we had our life built in Chicago. We have a great friend group there. I was very involved in the community there. But sometimes you just got to follow your gut. And if we've learned anything, you got to follow your gut instincts with anything you do. Your gut never steers you wrong. And there was no reason not to, other than it just being scary. But like, life is scary.
Yeah. And then like from there, Penny Linn has gone, whoop, that.
Yeah.
And so I'm very thankful that you did move out. And so much has changed in the very short time.
Yeah. Even, I mean, the last 6 months has changed exponentially. The brand has just, I always knew it would be something. This shit's crazy.
No, it is. So originally you were like doing wholesale customer service. And then
customer service.
You came out, we were packing orders together.
Yep. Then took over fulfillment.
And then still customer service, but like also, I mean, you were doing everything because I was
a little bit of everything, but social media.
When I got pregnant, you never touched social.
Yeah, I never touched social.
Part-timers.
Yep, we hired our first 2 part-time people in fall of 2023.
Yeah.
Because we picked up all of our stuff from the warehouse right outside of MetLife Stadium in July. Acrylic came 2 weeks later. August, we got threads.
Mm-hmm.
And then September and October were so busy that I was like, we got to hire some people. I was like,
it was just us packing. And I had gotten pregnant and I don't deal well with pregnancies. And so you were like, we need to hire somebody. You found 2 people you liked. I was like, hire them both.
Yep.
Thank God we did.
Yep.
And then the Needlepoint boom on TikTok in like January of 2024, like really made things crazy.
January, it felt like the longest month of my life. Yeah. But then February happened and then March.
And it just kept getting crazier.
And
Yeah, but it was fun. And so we lasted in the showroom like a year and a half, barely. And then we moved to Rowayton. And so up until I would even say like this year, after I came back from maternity leave, I feel like that's when we became a little bit more like official organized because it was just us for the longest time.
Yeah.
And now we have like a much bigger team. And so now your role primarily focuses on licensing and retail.
Stores.
So if you want to like talk a little bit about that, what you're doing now.
It's been really interesting. I mean, obviously being with Krista since the beginning, I have a passion for the brand and I believe in what we're doing. And so that goes a long way when it comes to meeting with other brands and just trying to explain to people what Needlepoint is. A lot of people still look at us with 17 heads, even though it's a very relevant hobby right now.
Right.
But it's not, this is a very unique industry. Needlepoint does not operate like any other CPG brand in the world. We don't have the same MOQs or order requirements or turnaround times or, we just don't have the normal rinse and repeat cycles that a lot of CPG brands have. And so having to explain that and on the flip side that we are a mostly direct to consumer brand too, that has also been a really interesting ploy on our side to explain that, we are selling mostly to our customers. and within our retail stores. So that has been like a big part of the partnerships job is one, we know all the brands that we love and adore, and we know what our customers like and what you guys want to stitch. We see everybody on every, social media channel looking, for the white whales they're looking for. And so we just kind of had a hit list and went about it. We are products children of the internet. And so we, do our back end magic to figure out how to contact people. Some are easier than others.
The art of the
follow-up. But we, kind of dipped our toes in with some brands that we had some personal relationships with to start. And then through one of those, Keep has been such a great partner of ours. And we had actually been emailing them off and on for over 2.5 years before we finally got their attention. So that was really fun to be like, look how many times I emailed you. Sarah and Lindsay are so wonderful with their knowledge, and they were really a guiding light as to recommending that I go to a licensing trade show. And so I went to that in Las Vegas last spring so much. I've been to 100 trade shows in my day as a buyer, and nothing has ever been like this licensing trade show. Thankfully, I had Clara at Petite Keep to give me information, but this isn't the type of trade show you can just walk up and talk to people. Like, I had to have scheduled meetings with people, and if I didn't, I would like maybe get on a wait list that they were never going to call me, but like they were polite and like pretended they wrote my name and phone number down. But thankfully, I had scheduled some really great meetings and had some really great conversations with people. I squirreled into a couple places, but like there were armored guards at these booths. So it's not the kind of trade show you're walking up and I'm used to going up and mingling, learning about a brand, maybe looking through a product book and, maybe placing an order. But no, these were very much business meetings, but it was very much worthwhile. And thankfully, those conversations have led to us, establishing some partnerships with some of these brands, but have also led us to being able to find the right ways to get in touch with the partners that we want to work with, or, leaning on our new network that we have to get some more of that information as well. It's definitely an industry that I didn't have a lot of exposure to before in this sense, but it's very complicated. Every brand operates completely differently, and they all have like the same requirements but different requirements. But it's all really cool to see that we can bring Needlepoint into some of these billion-dollar brands, which is really, really cool. And with that, it ties into, the retail store of it all, where we didn't necessarily set out to open a store, but that's what customers wanted. People wanted to come and see us. They wanted to experience Penny Linn off of the computer. Us being able to translate the store into what it's become, I think, is just proof in the pudding that, we're doing the right thing and that we're buying the right merchandise and we're putting the efforts into the right product mixes. And I think that us dipping our toes into licensing only proves that more. I mean, this is going to be a channel for us in licensing in itself. Just being able to legitimize us across other industries and other collectors of those brands and introducing people to something that may be new to them or maybe a reintroduction, but being able to bring that product mix as well into our stores, and maybe even being able to, especially in the New York store, being able to capitalize on the New York moments for some of our brand partners, I think is going to be a really cool aspect of the licensing partnerships that isn't necessarily the reason why we're doing it, but I think it's going to be a really cool part to expand on those different partnerships as we get into them. The New York store, where I feel like now that we are shifting into 2026, it's New York or nothing. The next couple weeks is going to be full of interviews, and we have so many amazing applicants in our candidate pool. I think it's going to be competitive.
Oh, I love that.
Which is going to be interesting.
I haven't even looked. My biggest thing is we have to find Dorothy for New York.
Yeah.
Like, we have to find, so Dorothy's our retail store manager, and she just like loves Needlepoint. She is like the heart and soul of the store. And like, I don't think our employees or our customers would be as happy without her. And it's like, we really need to figure out how to create someone like her in New York. That's like my biggest thing.
Yeah. We've had some good follow-ups from some people who applied for that role. So I'm excited to get that ball rolling and hopefully start meeting with some people in the next couple weeks.
Yeah. You're really good at like interviewing and like figuring out if they'll be like a social fit. Like, I feel like you can teach anybody just about anything, but like when it comes to like being a part of like the Penny Linn culture, like a really good eye for that.
Yeah. And I don't know where that comes from. I think it's just years of hiring people. Like you can tell if somebody's going to be a job match or at least be a culture match because you have to love it. Like, we are doing different stuff every day. You're not going to come in and do the same thing. So if you're looking for a routine, like that's not this job. And so you have to have that go-getter attitude to really appreciate what we're doing. And I think people having that enthusiasm is... people expect, that infectious personality to come from us. Right. So I think it's going to be, really exciting to see, who comes through. But I think the retail aspect of the brand is going to be just another fun channel that we haven't necessarily been
diving into.
Yeah. Like it's just a cherry on the top. Like the fact that we can have a retail space outside of the e-commerce store is really cool. Because retail is an immersive experience and Needlepoint is so personal. So being able to shop for things in real life is really important for people.
Yes.
So we're excited to bring a full assortment to the New York community.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a few rapid fire questions for you.
I love it.
Stitching on bars or in hand?
In hand.
Decorative or basket weave?
Basket weave forever.
18 or 13 mesh?
13.
Color match or color swap?
I really don't care.
Okay.
Whatever's in my stash.
Sparkly or Very Velvet?
Very Velvet.
I love Very Velvet. If you could only stitch with one throughout the rest of your life, what would it be?
It's tough.
I know.
Party Planet or Silk?
Wow. Have I like officially converted you?
I really like
Planet. Oh my gosh. Silk. Remember when you like lived and breathed for Vineyard Merino?
Yeah.
That's like all you stitched with.
Yeah.
You loved it.
I loved it.
And now you're like, I won't touch it.
I know that last belt I stitched for John, the binding stitch is rubbing through a little bit, Mike. So yeah, and I just love I love a thick coverage. Like I'm the stitcher who I want it full. Yeah,
same.
I like nice coverage. I don't mind the soft sheen. I just think it makes it look elevated.
No, Nurse Silk is like, I feel like such an underrated
Planet Earth silk thread in silk and ivory colors. That's the fantasy.
That is the fantasy. They really do need to expand, especially their blues.
Yeah, we got to figure out that undertone. Planet Earth silk.
I love that.
That would work.
Obviously, I love that. Okay, well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. We've let people know where they can find you.
You can find me at Penny Linn 7 days a week. No,
right.
You can find me at AC Needlepoint Designs, and that also lives under the Penny Linn Collective tab on the site. Yeah. Find me in one of our stores. Come see us. We hope to have a lot of really fun events. Come and check out our events page on the website. We are always refreshing that, but Krista and I have been having some really exciting conversations with some retail partners that we think we're going to bring some really exciting stuff into the world over the next several months. So keep following along for more.
Yeah. Yay. Thank you.
You're welcome.